Okay, bye.
How is development and gentrification affecting human and environmental justice? Hello everyone, we are Team 1 and this is our final presentation for Learning Places class, Spring 2020. We will discuss the process of development and gentrification in the area of Gowanus, Brooklyn. Our research question is focused on how the development and gentrification is affecting human and environmental justice. The key points of our presentation are three main ones: human justice, development, and last but not least, environmental justice. Before we start discussing the process of gentrification, let's start with a quick definition of the term and the context of our focused research. Gentrification is a general term for the arrival of wealthier people in an existing urban district, a related increase in rents and property values, and changes in the district's character and culture. The term is often used negatively, suggesting the displacement of poor communities by rich outsiders. Developers are gentrifying Gowanus while disregarding the challenge it has posed and will pose to the well-being of inhabitants. People and businesses have been directly impacted and have had to abandon the area. On the other hand, efforts such as EPA resolution and sponge bark can only do so much to mitigate the ecological effect that occur.
Hi, I'm Anna, and I will be in charge of the human justice part of this presentation. Julia provided us with the definition of gentrification. As she mentioned, it impacts people around the community, and most of them are being pushed out of their homes. I will be talking about the perspective of people being pushed out of their homes, and I will also include 2 testimonials of people living around this area. Many people are being pushed out of their homes due to the high rent of the areas around the community. However, there is an organization that works with people to help them with anything they need, and I'm referring to the Fifth Avenue Committee, which is a great organization that helps the people in the community by providing assistance and empowerment to them. This organization, as we see here, has its mission to help people economically and provide justice to the residents, as well as affordable housing, create economic opportunities, help residents, among many other things. I like that this organization works with them. Nonprofits work more with the people. They care about them, and they have accomplished many things throughout the years. For this project, I have done 2 interviews with people who live around the area to help us see a closer view of what is happening around the area. The first person I interviewed was Taisha. She has been living in Park Slope for 22 years. The first question I asked her was, have you noticed any changes in your neighborhood? If so, can you explain? And this is her response.
I don't want to say fairly new, but they were made when I was a child. And I know that so far the majority of the people who live in there are like white people. There used to be, I think, another house also across from my street. It used to be a Hispanic family there. That house was taken down. Now it's like a daycare that I think also caters mostly to like people who can afford it. So it's kind of like white people and for their children. So, and just now around my community, basically, they take down houses and they reconstruct them again. But obviously they're better and they're just like, well, they take them down because, they're old houses and they're worn out. They reconstruct them and make sure everything's better built. But of course, with that, it's like a very high rent. So the only people who do come here are those who can afford it. And sometimes that's not, most minorities can't afford living in like apartment buildings around here so much.
The second question I asked her was if she has been around the Gowanus Canal and what she thought about the Gowanus Canal, and this is her response.
There's a Whole Foods there, and I know that's a place that's populated by white people. And let me see. I don't want to say like that place is polluted, but it's like kind of polluted. And there's like highways, so like all of that, like the what's it called? The gas from like the cars and stuff, like kind of. I've been to like a house around there on 3rd Avenue, and like the windows you can see it's like polluted. It's like just the gas that comes from the cars or whatever factory. It's like that maybe also. Dirty the windows around there.
Yeah. The second person I interviewed wanted to be known as anonymous, so we won't say his name. He lives between Park Slope and Sunset. He has been living around this area for 15 years. The first question I asked him was if he noticed any changes around his area, and if so, if he will be able to explain. And here is his response.
Project going on around here. Like, there's a lot of like people, especially from like Caucasian people living there. Just like small businesses just popping up.
Another question I asked my interviewee was if he had been around the Gowanus Canal, and this is his response.
My dad actually has his store around there, so I have been there a couple times.
Okay, and what do you notice around that area?
I noticed that there's like a lot of small like factories and like jobs that people have over there. It's just getting like a little crowding, I guess, because like I know the Whole Foods, there's like the Whole Foods over there. There's like a bunch of big companies out there.
The interviews were a bit long, and for this reason, we only used some pieces of the interview. You will have available the full interview. And to conclude, I wanted to say that it is very important to have testimonials of people living around the canal, because we are able to see a different view, a closer view of the area.
Hi, I'm Diego, and I'll explain how development has become a factor as to why many have been displaced from the neighborhood. The interviews you have listened to are likely the beginning of a trend that will follow Gowanus. Developers have increased Brooklyn households so much that some would need to devote 98% of their median income to afford the payment on a median-priced home of $615,000. In contrast, nationwide payments on a median-priced home require 26% of the average household income. Brooklyn is now even less affordable than Manhattan and San Francisco, where half of all homes sell for $1 million or more. As stated in the Fifth Avenue Committee 2010 report, Getting a Fair Exchange, developers have halted assembling properties for development because banks were unwilling or reluctant to lend in areas adjacent to Superfund sites. This, however, was not to be, because by capitalizing on the issue of the space and cost trade-off in New York, real estate developers now have two major projects in planning that are now reshaping the landscape in New Gowanus, the more prevalent being the Gowanus Green Affordable Housing Development, which boasted a 774-unit apartment building with a 2-acre park at Smith and 5th Streets that was expected to open in 2017. Affordable housing has always been a key part of the plan, according to developers. But residents have become curious as to how units would be divided and how much they would cost. The now 950-unit proposition is just beginning to be realized. As of this writing, 74% of the units are planned to be below market rate and open to residents earning 30 to 120% of the area median income. The development team, comprises of the New York City Housing and Preservation Department, with real estate firms such as the Hudson Companies, Jonathan Rose Companies, Bluestone Organization, and the Fifth Avenue Companies. That very 6-acre site that lies at the corner of Smith and Fifth Street formerly held the gas plant. Plans for its revitalization calls for a multi-building, mixed-use development, a public school, and a new green space. Additionally, the project aims to seek LEED certification with the use of sustainable materials, energy-efficient systems, and an advanced stormwater management system. That 1.5 acre of green space is, according to officials, costs now being offloaded onto the city's department and will now have to come from public funds of the neighborhood. With all that being said, we have to question whether a group of developers truly have the best interests in actually maintaining the neighborhood's character. Though they may have good intentions and will likely aid in the revival of the canal and environment, they haven't yet delivered as promised. Is it likely that the damage in the Gowanus environment has already made it uninhabitable for the immediate future? It begs a question and a comparison, especially during these uncertain times. Are we being mismanaged and led to believe that everything is fine for the immediate benefit of some, when the actual problem has been dormant and could affect an important component of life, which is our health and well-being?
Hello everyone, this is Sergio, and I will be focusing on the environmental justice aspect of this project. As we all know, the Gowanus Canal is one of the most polluted bodies of water in the country due to its combined sewage overflow and historic industrial pollution. I have found an organization that has focused on environmental justice, and not just environmental justice, but also how it can serve the community that surrounds it. The organization is called Gowanus Canal Conservancy. They have actually been working on the site for about 13 years, and they have launched a plan called the Gowanus Lowlands Plan, Master Plan. They have developed an extensive amount of work in collaboration with community members and architects, landscape architects, and city officials. From an environmental standpoint, I think that the developments and changes in the neighborhood are actually affecting the neighborhood in a very positive way. These changes are moving towards cleaning the canal and pollution that has been developed over so many years. Part of their plan really is for this to be a community-based vision. They started with outreach with around 300 people from various parts of the neighborhood, including elected officials, landowners, and other people from the community, in order to have clear what the priorities and the needs for every person. One of the important parts of this vision is how to integrate stormwater and sewage management. It is understood that the Superfund can only do so much, and raw sewage will continue to flow into the canal. So here's where the city rezoning plan would have to come into play. They would have to implement key components of the Gowanus Lowlands vision in order to fix the sewage overflow problem. They have seen the city implement some of these changes, but there is a lot much more work to do. Some of the things that would include in the lowland proposal are introducing stormwater management streets, restoring salt marshes and turning basins, building water storage and filtration gardens at street ends, incentivizing green roofs and on construction bird habitats, designing for floating and in-water aquatic habitat, regenerating the urban forest, which is basically adding more trees onto the streets, and daylighting historic creeks. So ultimately what Gowanus Lowland proposal is to be able to consolidate both the zoning aspect of the area and the cleaning processes and put them all together to create the network of parks that they are planning to. At the end of the day, the proposal is something that could only be possible if the whole community around Gowanus really comes together and pushes forward these things so that elected officials would sign off for these projects and actually get constructed. Not only just that, but we still have the question in terms of the environment and of how effective these strategies would be. The stormwater management is still an issue, and the combined overflow still continues to be a threat for the environment. We also have to take in consideration and not forget that the sea levels are rising, and we don't know how this would be affecting the canal and what it would be bringing up from under and how it would affect the environment as a whole. This is something that is still to be determined and as an environmental issue, and I know that the Gowanus Canal Conservancy is taking into account all these things and creating all these proposals that are actually more current than I believe they were. At this point, we don't really know how at what stage things are, especially with COVID. What we have realized is that things are moving and have been moving very slowly. So it is still yet to be seen what happens with Gowanus Canal in terms of the environment.